Alright, today I'm going to show you how to filter your data based on an n value. I'm going to show you 4 different ways. The first one is going to be a basic n filter where you just use this feature. The second one is using the parameter feature where you can just type in what n value you want and it will filter by that value, the top and bottom. Of course you don't need to do top and bottom, but this is the effect I'll show you here. The third one is going to be a parameter choice n filter, and so what that means is it gives you free control over how much of the top values you want and how much of the bottom values you want. So here we have 10 to 10, but you can set it something weird like 10 to 5, like that. Okay, and then lastly I can show you something like a parameter drop down n filter. This isn't a drop down now because I want to show you all the options, but you can have it so that you can let the user click on it. And this will probably be the most robust way for people to interact with your visualization, especially if it's to filter on an n value. And then of course a box to tell you what the n value actually is. Okay, so basic n value, let's just start from scratch. So we're going to do sum of profit and product name. So our measure is going to be profit size, all right, and then product name. Okay, and we'll flip it so that looks a little bit like this line, and this number is all filtered. Sorry, I'm gonna hide this first. So all this is right now scrambled, so we'll sort it so it looks nice. So you see here you got a nice little wave going on from positive to negative values. Okay, alright, so the most basic way of filtering this would be to just simply use the filter function that Tableau has. And so what are we filtering on? We're filtering on the product name based off the profit. So when you do filter, you have to filter on the value you're filtering on, not necessarily this. And so what I mean by that is we're not filtering by this profit value. That's not the right thing. We're filtering by product. So we're going to use product name. So go here, pretty simple. You can either select from list, or you can do a top value. So if you just want the top 10, you can do it this way. Click apply, and voila, you've got it. That is the most basic way of filtering. The downside of this is you are using hard numbers, and what I mean by that is if the user or anyone else wants you to change it, you have to always come back and change it here. Conversely, if you do a manual selection, every time they want you to change it, you have to come in here and readjust like what you want to select. Like, okay, I want this, you know. So that is basic filtering, pretty simple. The next one is parameter n filter, and so what I mean by that is allowing the user on your visualization dashboard to put in the value they want and have it automatically update to reflect that. So 20 reflects it. I only want the top 3 from both ends, reflects that. Once again, the reason why it's showing the top and bottom n is simply because that's what I have it set right now. Of course, you don't need to do both. You can do one end or the other. You'll be able to see that in the other types of filter later on. And so how do you create a parameter n filter? So let's start from scratch again. Same thing, profit, product name. Okay, flip it. So like it says, in order to make a parameter filter, you're going to have to create the parameter. And so in this case, we're going to call this parameter the n value. I'm going to delete it so that I can remake it. Okay. And so we're going to create a, I'm sorry, it's not a, no, yeah, it is parameter. So we'll call it an n value. Of course, what you name it is relevant, but you name it something logical. And we're going to leave it as a integer. Float would have been fine too, honestly. The current value is irrelevant. You can put it whatever you want. You want to leave it at current value. You want to keep it automatic. And you want all values. We don't need a list. We don't need a range. But you could use it. But in this case, I'm not. Okay, so that's the n value. Now I'm going to put it onto the worksheet so that I know. So I know what they're going to be using. So like I said, 1, they can do it 5, it doesn't matter. But of course, when you change it now, nothing's going to happen because it's not linked to anything. Change it to 15, 20, like 5,000, it doesn't matter. The data is not going to change. So we're going to have to now link it to something, this n value. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to link it to 2 sets of filters based on sets. So what sets are they are subsets of the data. They're filtering, they're partitioning the data how you want it. So I'm going to delete my previous ones. Okay. Delete combined because I need that too. So the first thing we're going to do is to create a subset of the data, we need to once again identify what are we subsetting, in this case the product name. So we'll go to product name, or whatever we have as our y value, if you will, and we'll create a set. Okay. Once again, set is merely telling Tableau I want to take a piece of the data, and grouping is something similar, but we're not going to get into it. I think grouping is a little softer, set is a little bit more robust in terms of what you can do, but they both group data however you want it. So let's create a set. Let's tell Tableau, hey look, if I shoot you some parameters, I want you to apply it and filter the data as such. In this case, I want the top X amount of my data to be filtered based on the profit and sum. And so the beauty of parameter is that by having a parameter, you no longer have to hard code anything. So instead of keeping it at 10, I'm going to tell it to just reference this end value that I just created. Okay. It's a little confusing because these are the other stuff to my worksheets, but we're just going to use the end value that we just created. Okay. So as it stands right now, if I leave this value at 5.22, which is essentially 5, it will only filter by the top 5 values. And we can see this by adding the filter now. Okay. Why did you not activate? Product name, sum profit. That's odd. This should have filtered. Top by field, end value, profit, sum. Gosh. What is going on here? Product name should be correct. Top N. Oh, you know what? This probably is spazzing out. There you go. It's because we had a float number, so it got confused. Although I set it as a float, so why didn't it automatically default to a float or integer? I guess when you set it as an integer, it just means that all it can understand are integers. It won't self-correct. So we just did top N, and we just verified we're using filter that it is now doing whatever we put it. Okay. And so that's another way of doing a parameter and filter. And if you want top and bottom, pretty simple. You just redo this filter. Okay. Not this one, product name. Create a set and just do bottom N. Same thing. You tell it, hey, reference the top. You don't want top this time, you want bottom. No hard numbers, just look at the end value. Okay. And so if our intention is we want both the top and bottom, we're going to have to now take one more step, which is to combine the two, because you can't put both of them in the filter. One supersedes the other. No, one will replace the other. So if you do it now as an example, show you the top 5, I bring up the bottom, no work. But the bottom works, so they can't coexist. Fortunately for us, Tableau has a way to do it, and it's just simply combining it. So here, a little slower. Create a combined set, okay? I'll just call it combined. And so the next thing you have to look at is, okay, what am I combining? What are the criteria that I'm combining? Well, I want you to combine the bottom end and top end. And when you do that, of these 4, what do you want me to do? Show me everything that satisfies both conditions, okay? And so if your intention is to just see the top and bottom, this is how you would do it. And you get top and bottom. And if you want, you can color code it however you want. Fortunately for you, this data is binary. There's negative and positive values. So if you wanted to do it by profit, you could, right? That would work. You can also do it this or that, so like this. Okay, that would work as well. And so that's how you do a parameter value. What about a parameter choice value? Slightly different. Like before, we put in 1. But what if you want to separately control both the top and the bottom? Very simple fix. You just break your parameters into separate pieces. So if I close this out, we do product name, we do profit, all right. Okay, same here. I'm going to hide this filter, okay. You create a parameter and you just separate it. Right now we have everything referencing one end value. It's as simple as creating 2 separate ones. So if you look at this one that I created, bottom end value, exact same thing. It's exactly the same thing as the end value, but I labeled it bottom and labeled the other top just as a reference. And then when I go back to the sets that I created, either create new sets. I guess it just depends on what you're working on. Either create new sets or just remap the sets you had before. And what I mean by that is, before we had the top and bottom end set referencing the same end value, okay? But if you want to have control over both top and bottom separately, it's as simple as just saying, okay, bottom end, don't look at this one value, look at this bottom end value now and link it to that. And same with the top end, okay? And in this case, because you're controlling both separately, you don't need a combined trigger. Well, no, you still do. You need a combined trigger because, okay, so once you change it, you either create a new one or just let it be, and then just take the new combined set. Okay, so this would be it. Am I skipping too many steps? You know what? I'll just create from start. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so let's take a few steps back. It's as simple as just creating two new end values, so bottom end. So we just create that. Okay, we'll show the parameter. These are exact duplicates of end values. The only thing is we relabeled them new things so that these are separate controls. Go to bottom end, what we had before. We will now reference specifically the bottom end value parameter. Okay, same with the top. Okay, top. So now they reference two different things. And we don't have to do anything with combined because combined is simply telling Tableau, hey, I want to combine these two sets to do this one thing. So it should be fine. So we'll put it as filters, and as you can see, it works. The bottom is set at bottom 5, top is set at top 10, and as you can see here, that is exactly what we have. And then once again, if you want to color it, you just throw, you have to recognize what your data is, and because it's binary, you can just throw profit in there and it'll look like that. And so that's how you do a parameter choice end filter, where you can freely do whatever number you want. There you go. Okay. Lastly, how do you do a selection drop down end filter? A little bit more tricky. Basically, you have to do a calculation and have it work as a filter on its own. And so what I mean by that is, here, let's start from scratch. So I'm going to delete this, and I think that's it. Okay. Okay, so if we go same thing, product name like that. Oops, that was correct before. Okay. So if we want to do something that's like a drop down or a select and give the user a lot of control, same thing, we need a trigger. So let's start with a parameter. Okay. We'll call this a selection. We'll call it selection because this trigger will allow us to select different choices. This time we're going to do a list. Okay. The reason why we're going to do a list is because we're going to have multiple options, and also because this is the intent of what we want to do. The value is irrelevant. The value is simply there for calculations of reference. Display is for our own use, so we'll say 0 is going to be top end, 2 is going to be 1 is going to be bottom end, 3 is going to be combined. Oh, now we'll do top and bottom end, and then lastly 3 will be show all. Okay, so that's the first step. First step is creating a parameter so that it triggers something. But like before, unless something points to this trigger, it's not going to do anything. So the next step is we need to create a calculation that references the trigger. And for that, we're going to do selection trigger. Okay, and we're going to use an if function. So it's pretty simple. If selection is 0, then okay, so okay, that's not true. We need to also reference some other sets. Okay, so I'm going to delete it so I can do a complete. delete this. Okay, so this should be a little bit cleaner. This is the original stuff. Okay, so the reason why I kind of took a pause is because I was skipping too many steps and I think it was going to get confusing. So we've created our selection parameter. Now we need to point it to do something. Before we can do the calculation, we actually have to set the sets. And so what I mean by that is the calculation will take in the parameter and result in an action. That action has to point to no, I guess a better way to put it is the parameter will send an order to the calculation. The calculation will reference an action. So the reason why I stopped when I was doing my calculation was because I realized I didn't rank the actions, and so we're going to do that now. So what I mean by actions is we need to create all the filters that are going to act when you reference it. So the first one is, so if we have 4, we're going to have to create 3 actions. One for top, one for bottom, and one for combined. Okay. So like it was before, since we're filtering on product name, we go to product name and create the set. We're telling Tableau, this is what we want you to filter by. And so we're going to reference an end value. Okay. So top end value. Okay. And given what you know, you can make this pretty robust. You can give it bottom end value, but for the sake of ease, I'm going to just give it one end value. So for the sake of this problem, when you choose one of these things, it's all going to reference one end value. Okay, but like we saw before, you can easily break this up into individual end values. Okay, so continuing on, we're going to create a set for the bottom end. All right, bottom end value. Okay, and then lastly, we want one option for the combined top and bottom end, which is just a simple combine. Okay, and then that is it. All right, and then now that we have our 3 actions for our 4 options, we can now create our calculation. And yep, it deleted itself. Okay, so create calculated field, selection trigger. Okay, and we use the if function. So if the parameter picks this or that, I want the following actions to trigger. So if selection equals 0, then 0 is, as we referenced, is show only the top end. So we're going to do top end. Okay. Else if. Otherwise, if selection is equals 1, then we had it as bottom end. So we'll do that, bottom end set. Else if selection equals 2, then it's a combined. All right. Else if selection equals 3, then true. Because if selection is show all, just it means everything is a valid thing to show. Okay, and then lastly we'll end it. Is it happy? It's happy. Okay, and then that's it. We just put the selection trigger on the filter, and it'll tell it, okay, only show things that default to true. Okay, and so it's working fine. Nobody's touching anything. Okay, and so if we do top n, and so if we set n at this arbitrary number of 8, if we do top n, it shows the top 8 most profitable products. If we click on this, it shows the bottom 8 profitable products combined. Here you go, and then show all. And so that is how you create different end filters.